Okay, it's a great honor to present here. It's been a great experience. I've met so many great students that are the future of research, so it's awesome to be here and to see you guys taking a chance on this field because there's so much work to be done. So what I'm going to talk about is early intervention as prevention. And what I'm talking about is early intervention for mental health as prevention for addiction. And this wasn't initially where I started off with my career. Quick slides to make the point. This is sort of looking at years lived with disability by age group in data from Australia. And what you can see, I want you to look at that yellow grouping there. The huge amount of burden of illness associated with mental disorders. And they're all from ages 10 through 30. Look, it's really obvious. In that age group, mental disorders, and this will include substance use and abuse, is huge. Doesn't even compare to everything else. Next slide. Look at the burden of mental illness across the lifespan. So now just looking at mental illness, including substance abuse across the lifespan, where does it occur? So we know it's one of the biggest things in young people. And then within the field of mental illness, again, we see that 10 to 30 years of age, where mental illness has a huge impact on people's lives. And this is looking at disability-adjusted life years. Now let's focus in even a little more. Let's look at the different types of mental illness and the age groupings. You'll see the top green line there is anxiety and depression. The one underneath that, it's blue and a little overlap with red. So blue is substance use disorders, overlap with red, schizophrenia and bipolar disorders. Those are the big three. And again, they're kicking in 10 to 14, up to 30. So that's the big impact there. So what we do know is that there's lots and lots of evidence supporting the early identification and the benefit of that on mental health. So early identification and treatment for mental illness can have a huge impact on the prognosis of mental illness and also on the subsequent development of substance abuse and dependence. So there's no shortage of evidence on that. It's very clear. The thing is that we're also finding out that once people are addicted, we need a lot more work to break down and prevent this sort of more general, and this is where the transdisciplinarity comes in, the larger socioeconomic downward spiral that coincides with mental illness and substance use. So that's where you see people disconnecting from their family and friends, ending up homeless or in very adverse social environments, and that spiral just gets worse and worse. And I think we don't address that with our treatment of mental health and addiction. But early intervention can in and prevent that spiral from really starting up. So part of this, my research was integrating intervention and surveillance. I did school-based surveys of mainstream youth, integrating web-based surveys to look at sort of incidents of substance use, emerging mental health in high schools, and using the internet to collect information. I thought, if I can use a web-based survey, and kids filled it out in school, so I'm in 70 schools across BC, 3,000 teens, they fill out the survey every 6 months. If they screen as high on depression or smoking or whatever, they get feedback or they get a skip logic image saying, oh, you should look at this, or you should think about quitting smoking. That notion with the internet and web-based surveys, we can integrate brief information or even referrals in real time to screening. So no producing a report, applying the results to an intervention 4 years later. We can actually introduce simple intervention in real time to students as they're being surveyed. I did a similar thing in Douglas College Health and Wellbeing survey of college students. Again, it was just cross-sectional. BASIS survey had a nice web-based interface, very friendly, youth-friendly, really engaged them in doing it. That's just a screenshot. So one of the things came up, we asked, if you needed mental health services in the past month, but you didn't get treatment, why not? And this shouldn't come as a surprise. In BASIS, the numbers there are in red, and the Mercury Center Society, the numbers are in black. The main problems, they say they thought or hoped the problem would go away, didn't want parents to know, and didn't know where to go. Huge. Most kids who didn't see that, that's what they said. Here's just some simple results. What we're seeing there in the red is that a lot of teens are experiencing depression, boys and girls, around 30%. And on the bottom line, bottom table, you see of those who are experiencing mental health, in this case depression, most would use websites. Some are already, across their severity, And in the red is, would they use it in the future? Huge potential. So youth with depression who don't even recognize they have it would use internet resources. The next step is connecting. This is where my research is going. Taking that basis mainstream research, I've now connected with the Inner City Youth Program, established in 2007. It's about 6 or 7 psychiatrists, attachment-informed therapy, registered psych nurses, rehab scientists. It's a big intensive case management program with housing, working with youth. Access engagement is critical. Youth can be referred into this program by frontline workers. They can refer themselves, training across agencies all over the city. There's a wait time of 2 weeks for a psych assessment. The key goal there is if you take a program like that with huge capacity to connect with youth, 2-week wait for a psychiatric assessment, all sorts of housing, psychosocial rehab, addiction treatment, and mental health support, that's at the bottom. At the top was my research, mainstream youth. Imagine when we bring the two together. So if I can work with them and connect in the alternative schools in grade 8 and start referring youth and take advantage of that clinical expertise, that's the future, where we can take very focused academic research, bridge with the clinical research, which is usually more extreme, that response to crisis, but find that middle ground where we can both work together and start stretching the crisis-driven responses into prevention. I think that's where my future research is going. Thank you.